All right, here we are, man, back again.
Yeah.
Kind of got a new lighting setup. People might notice from last time.
Yeah.
Yeah, trying to work on every day or every time we come here, try to make it a little bit better, a little bit better.
I could use all the help I can get. So.
Do you want me to just have like a computer animated avatar over you?
Some days. Yeah, if I had a rough night, I'll let you know.
Yeah, dude, I just got off a bender.
Yeah, put Cartoon Gary up, man. I can't even deal with this today.
Like I have our memojis for our iPhones have a conversation.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So right before the podcast started, me and Gary were actually talking about the way people disagree and what happens. We were kind of talking about when we're not being clear. Maybe was that where we were at?
Well,
just go ahead and finish your thought.
So, just to give people, just to set the table for everybody, these conversations can be challenging. They're not the easiest thing in the world to do, to regularly sit down with somebody who has opposing beliefs and explain why you think what you think. And then when you get into different topics and all that kind of stuff. And I was explaining to Aaron, one of the reasons why I think the way that I do and communicate the way that I do is because of the business that I'm in. When I'm not doing this, I do granite countertops. And so I'm literally carving it in stone. And so there is you have to be absolutely certain of, okay, is this where I need to cut this? And if there's any question, well, maybe I need to cut it over here. I mean, it could be that I need to cut it over. If you're not 100% sure and can demonstrate to somebody, hey, why are you about to cut it right there? Let me show you exactly why I know that this is the right spot to cut this. And if you can't do that, you need to ride back out to the house and take some more measurements. And, and that a lot of times can be a 2-3 hour investment of your time. Right. Just to drive out there for an hour and a half, walk in the house for 5 minutes and pull your tape measure and go, yep, I was off by 1/8 of an inch, but now I know, and then an hour and a half ride back to the shop before you can now, but you have to know.
Make this one cut.
Yes. Yeah. It's literally measure twice or 3 times and then cut once. But you've got to know for a fact why you're doing what you're doing. Or it could be wrong. And the other thing is when you are wrong, when you said, man, I'm pretty sure this is the right, line to cut this sink out, or the right place to cut this corner or do this notch or whatever. I'm pretty sure. Well, if you're wrong, thousands of dollars, right? And so the mistakes don't come cheap. They start in the hundreds and they go up very, very quickly, just almost instantly. Yeah. And so we have to know what we know and know why and be able to explain it. And, so when you and I are having these conversations and you make a statement, in the back of my mind, it's like, well, how could that be wrong? When I make a statement, same thing. How could I say that more clearly? Why is it that I think that? And so if somebody's a little bit loose with the language or they're making assertions that could or could not be true, my mind instantly goes to, wait a minute, not necessarily. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think we were specifically talking about things that I will say. I use 2 categories. I say there's things that naturally follow from atheism, and then there are things that are consistent with atheism. And I was saying, I think I switch between categories, and I'm not clear when I'm doing that. I'm clear in my head,
sure, but
I'm not clear to you when I'm switching from do I think no matter what anyone tells me, I'm sure that this, and this naturally flows from atheism. In other words, not that I could never have my mind changed, but I'm saying right now, even if you deny it, I'm like, well, I've actually done the mental legwork on this one. I'm sure that follows, right? And then there's other things that are just consistent. And so if I say this is consistent with atheism and you're like, well, that's not me, I'm like, well, yeah, I'm not saying it's consistent with Gary. I'm saying it's consistent with atheism.
Yeah,
right?
and I'm hearing that as, since you're an atheist, these things must be true. And I'm like, wait a minute, that I could find people to where that is not true.
Right, and I think it's hard to critique the ideology without critiquing the person. No, wait, I said that wrong. I think it's hard to critique the ideology without sounding like you're critiquing the person. Because when I criticize atheism, I'm not criticizing you. You didn't create this ideology.
Sure.
You believe it, right?
Sure.
So it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, and I totally understand that, because when I first started questioning my faith, I would talk to believers that were near me, be it my wife, my sister, my parents, whoever, and very often they would feel very attacked, and I would say, why do you feel attacked? I'm not saying you, I'm saying these beliefs, but these concepts, religious or non-religious, are things that people form their parts of their identity around.
It becomes part of the ego, dude. It is who you are.
Yeah,
and you feel like personally attacked.
Yes, you can.
I think too, just in talking, is in English, you means all of you that's in the cone this way away from me. It also means you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I could be talking about you meaning, and in my mind, I'm thinking about this big hypothetical swath of atheists that don't even exist.
Right.
And you're like, why is he calling me this? Why is he telling me this is me? Right?
Yeah.
So you got to be careful with your language. I try to think about that, to not say you, but that they say atheists.
Sure.
Or, I don't know. There's probably other better ways, but when you're just having a conversation, you kind of go to like the easiest path in your mind as you're talking.
Right.
And you say you.
Right.
You. And you're like, well, no, it's not me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. There's a lot of things about the communication in all this that makes it very challenging. And I'm a stickler for language, and so sometimes we get hung up, you know. So it's like that in any relationship. Me and my wife over the years have explored, as you will, in a marriage over the years, how did we get off tracks in that conversation?
Right. Like, what are we talking about right now?
Yeah. And it's like, and there's some things that when you say, like, for instance, when you say, you always so-and-so, and so, well, the other person is going to instantly, their mind is going to go to a point where they didn't do that thing that you're just talking about. Or you never tell me so-and-so. Their mind is going to go to where that time when they did do that. So always and never are not good words, tend to stay away from those. There's just other things in language that, and then my business, how I have to know what I know, where I'm kind of a stickler for language.
Do you ever try to, when people talk and they obviously are using the wrong language, like when someone says always, they obviously don't mean always.
Yeah.
Do you try to settle it in your head and go, okay, let me try to hear what they're trying to say, not necessarily what they're saying?
I can't say I do it regularly.
Yeah.
When I think about it, it's obviously a good thing to do. I hope for a little bit of grace when I'm communicating my point. If I don't hit it just right, don't necessarily listen to the exact words that I said. Listen to what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Listen to the spirit of what I'm saying, not necessarily the word by word definition of it. So I would hope for a little bit of grace. I try to extend that the same. It's challenging communication with somebody, especially about important or deep issues, especially when somebody's in on the opposition. That can be challenging, Patricia said a bunch of times, she said, every time we get in an argument, you always think you're right. And I'm like, I'm not going to argue that I'm wrong. I mean, that's the nature of it.
That's why we're arguing.
Yeah.
I think I'm right.
Yeah. And whenever you're looking at me thinking he thinks he's right, just know you're thinking you're right also. So,
Yeah.
I mean, okay, that's what we're doing here. So
have you noticed it's easy. You can almost see it happen when a conversation just grinds to a halt because someone's not like extending that grace in the way you talk, like in language. I know I can do it. I know when someone's talking to me, I'm thinking like, okay, I can grind this to a halt right now and make them speak super clearly, or I can just fill in all the blanks that they missed and keep the conversation going. And it kind of depends on what I decide to do in the moment, but most of the time it's like, okay, I'll just fill in the blanks. I understand what they're trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, it's happened with me and you. So it's challenging. It's not easy.
And it's not, because it's not wrong to make someone earn their thought, right? If you speak, if you just speak like poorly, it's not a bad thing for me to try to work you through it to where you kind of say it clearly, right? Like that helps everybody.
Yeah.
But at the same time, a conversation can just flat out stop if you try to do that.
Yeah.
Try to help someone.
Definitely.
Right.
So it's challenging. We all go into it. I'd like to think we're getting better. So
I think so. Maybe one day we'll release some of the early podcasts where
I'm sure we will.
Things devolved into, which we're always gentlemen, so we're never like insulting each other, but things get kind of tense.
I think it's good. It shows that we're just real people and we're just dudes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not neither of us are scientists or philosophers or, you know, we're just a couple of guys sitting here sharing our opinions.
Mm-hmm.
So, speaking of which, we've got some things that we wanted to go over today. In how these things play out in everyday life, in our interactions and, you know, that kind of thing. So, in business is one of our talking points today was faith in business. Yeah. And most often what comes to mind when I see that, or say when I'm driving down the road and I see a work van and it has, say, you know, Noah's Plumbing on it. And it's got like a Christian fish or something like that, you know, and I think, man, just be a plumber. You don't have to, you know, or you know, the Christian, you know, carpenters or, you know, whatever. It's like they're trying to promote their business, but then they're using faith also as a building block of that, which, okay, that's not necessarily wrong. Yeah. I would rather have you just advertise as the best plumber or carpenter or the best whatever. Right. I don't necessarily care what your faith is. And it feels like an opportunity to cash in, you know. Like, hey, since you're down in the Bible Belt, you need to promote yourself this way, and that way it draws in more customers. They feel more aligned to you. They trust you more since they know that, you know, those kind of things. And if you went in a different area, you know, if you went down to Texas, would you all of a sudden be Cowboys Plumbing? Or, you know, if you went up to, you know, a different area, you know, would you change that at all? For me, because I'm not a believer, it feels a little bit cheap to me, and it feels like they're just trying to market, you know. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? It's my faith in business. I mean,
do you think that they could have like good motivations for doing it? I mean, having been a Christian, you know, Christians are all about putting Christ first, you know. I know personally, one of the biggest changes in my religious life was when I submitted to the idea that Christ is Lord over everything. He's not just Lord over the church. He's Lord over everything, which includes science and philosophy and theology and math and pickles. I don't care what it is. He's the Lord over everything, right? Okay. And so he's the Lord over your business. He's the Lord over your life. And there's I don't see anything wrong with trying to honor him.
Yeah, know? But you wouldn't make your employees pray every day to start the day, would you?
No, I wouldn't force anyone to. I wouldn't force anyone to pray. I can say I would be more likely to hire Christians. I would say that. Okay. Like if I had two candidates, let's say I had two candidates that were equally qualified. Yeah. And that was a differentiator between them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because I would prefer to surround myself in business with people who are like-minded, you know? Okay. So, yeah, I would do that. I don't know if that's a violation of any laws.
I think it is. I think it is.
I know why.
Discrimination based on sex, religious or sexual orientation, religion. That's a 100%.
Nailed it. I just won't make that the reason. I won't write that down. Right. But we know that happens all the time. Yeah. You know.
I mean, look, what if your boss converted to Islam? And then every day you came into work and there were Qurans and there were prayer mats and there were, he and other people stopped, 5 times a day and it was prayer time. So you go in his office to ask him a question. I can't do it now because it's prayer time. Would that get to be an aggravation to you? No. Would you feel like
it
wouldn't bother you at all?
It wouldn't bother me any more than it does than an atheist who is critical of someone who prays, right? It's like the same thing. It doesn't bother me. It's that he has to make his own choices in life, and those choices don't affect me. And I could easily work with a Muslim, or if he wanted to pray, that wouldn't bother me. Yeah, I would still hold it down for the gospel, and I wouldn't change my ways. If it came to that, I would just leave, right?
You would leave the job if that was the scenario?
Yeah, I would just leave the job. I would never try to force someone to honor my religion. If I got a job somewhere, well, maybe if there was a payday in it. No, I'm just kidding. If I got a job somewhere and being a Christian was a problem, I would just go find another job. Like, I'll be honest with you, I think this in faith and business, the homosexual couples trying to get the Christian guy to make them a wedding cake, right?
Yeah.
If I was them, I would not try to force someone to like to honor what I honor. I would just go somewhere else.
Sure.
You know, I mean, if it was opposite, if it was a gay baker and I said I want to make a cake that just honors Jesus, and he says, I can't do that. I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one, I wouldn't fight to give him my money. I wouldn't be like, no, you have to take my money. I would just go somewhere else. But I definitely wouldn't try to drag him through the mud over it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe that comes from a little bit of a place of, I'm going to say the P word, privilege.
I know. I mean, I felt, look, I wasn't going to throw it at you, but I felt you building the case for it.
I hate that, dude.
Right.
I don't feel privileged. Whatever this white privilege thing is, I don't look at my life and I'm like, it doesn't seem to have helped me too much.
Yeah.
But
I can't say that I would.
But real quick, just the fact that this has historically been a Christian nation kind of makes a lot of people are interacting the same way you do, right? And so,
well, hang on, you just kind of threw something in there, like historically been a Christian nation.
Dude, it was found. Dude.
I don't want to rehash it with you, but that's one of those things that you throw in there as though it's a fact.
Yeah.
And to me, we're a country built on religious freedom. We left a theocracy, and we did not create another theocracy. And I wouldn't want to live in a theocracy.
Okay, I didn't say we were a theocracy. I said we're historically a Christian nation. There's like, you can't even deny it. It's like it's.
Well, I will. I mean, I will. I will openly deny. I will openly deny that.
If your definition of historically a Christian nation means a theocracy, okay, no, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the first people that come over here and settle were the Puritans, not the very first, but the early people were the Puritans, and they were trying to escape England and come here to be able to worship the way they wanted. And that vein of Christianity has permeated through all of U.S. history, and to the point now we're in a place of rejecting it. So I think part of rejecting it is to act like it was never there.
Would you say that this is a country built on slavery?
No, I don't say it's built on slavery.
But if you used all those same things, the first people that came over here
were not slave traders. They didn't come here. Listen, the Puritans came here.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, it's different. The Puritans came here to worship the way they wanted. The slave traders didn't go, ooh, where's a place that'll allow me to have slaves? Oop, right there. I'll go there. So that's not the same.
Okay. Okay.
But back to this.
Yeah.
Anyway, what I was saying is that since we've historically been Christian, that we're usually we're more likely bumping into people who at least have that background in their life versus you don't run into a lot of Buddhists or a lot of Hindus and maybe some Muslims, right? But it's a lot of Christianity, especially since we have so many immigrants from the South, right? From Mexico and South America, where Christianity just has a stronghold as far as religion goes. Mm-hmm. You know what's interesting? Most people
Catholicism.
Yeah, that's Christianity.
Okay.
Most people
opinions vary, is what I'm. You ask some Christians if Catholics are, have an authentic faith, or if Catholics are Christians, and opinions vary around it. Some people respect Catholics, other people don't. In the Christian community.
Yeah.
And as far as they say that they praise the Virgin Mary too much, they depend too much on this idea of saints, the Pope, that there can be a spokesperson for Christ on earth. They disagree with all those tenets of Catholicism. So
but if you ask someone if Jesus Christ is the Son of God that came and died on the cross as a propitiatory sacrifice for our sins, and they go, yeah, that's a Christian to me, right? That was big, right?
Remind me to Google propitiatory later. I grew up in the church, never heard propitiatory, but guarantee I'll be looking that up later.
So my definition of Christian is,
Yeah.
So, but anyways, so I was just going to say an interesting fact is I think we think of Christianity as sort of a white Western religion. But if you just go look at a map of there's Christians all over the entire globe. 2, Africa and South America are really where most of the Christians are.
Okay.
So it's not even a white.
So next on the agenda was public figures, not business people, but public figures and faith, or lack thereof. Politicians, celebrities. What do you think about them using their platform to push either agenda?
I mean, I think it's fine. Everyone's going to do what's consistent with their worldview, right? And so if you're a Christian and you want to glorify God, you're going to do things consistent with that. If you're an atheist and you don't, you're going to act consistently with that. So I don't think there should be any expectation that someone is anything other than who they are in their public or private life.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that I have an expectation that they become or behave someone different than their self.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that. I do feel like they should leave it out of it a lot of times.
But wouldn't that be not being themselves?
Well, no, not at all. I mean, I'm a father, but I'm not going to come in here and speak to you about fatherhood all the time. I'm a husband, but I'm not going to come in here and talk to you all the time about being a good husband, or, there's plenty of things that are aspects of myself that I don't have to bring to every conversation. So,
yeah, but do you think that? In
other words, when I watch an NFL game, I'm not interested in their political views. I don't care. I don't care if the quarterback is Democrat or Republican, or I don't care who he's going to vote for.
Yeah.
Not that I want their opinion to be silenced. That's not the case. Choose an avenue to go voice your opinions. I'm not here for that.
So why do you think that the person voicing their opinions is the one that needs to leave and not you?
I mean,
or the person that doesn't want to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Yeah. So let's say that in your day-to-day business, you got called out to a job to go give them a bid on sheetrock and framing, right? And then while you're there, you hear a religious message, not yours. Do you feel like, hey, man, I'm not here for this. I'm here to let you know how much the sheetrock and framing is going to cost, not to hear you go on and on about Allah.
I don't think people are going on and on about stuff. I think it's real simple. Like little things I'll say, like, if God allows it, or thank God that this happened, or definitely God intervened there. It's little stuff like that. And when you're watching celebrities, now sometimes I think the worst that you'll hear is someone get up and say, I want to thank the Lord and Savior, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, because through him all things are possible, or something like that. One sentence, and then they move on. I don't think anyone really gets up there and preaches, do they? Do you have an example of that? Like someone where you're like, dude, this interview is going nowhere because all you're doing.
Well, it doesn't strike you as that because of the country that we're in. But if it was a different religion and you were saying it all the time, would it strike you any different? If somebody got up and said, "Hey, I just want to thank Allah for his blessings," and and you heard it, you might not be that offended the first time. You might just be like, whatever, But after the dozenth time or the 20th time, at some point you'd be like, God, can we just play football? Can we just listen to the concert? Can you just give me the quote on the sheetrock and at some point. So it wouldn't strike you as odd if it was any other religion to.
No, I would expect people to be true to what their values are. And maybe that's because being a Christian, I understand the importance of it in someone's life. So if they want to talk about it, or they want to glorify God, whatever God it is, that I can at least be like, okay, I get what you're doing. I get what you're doing.
I think there's a difference between categorizing it and being true and not being true. In other words, I'm not a believer. I don't intentionally share that with my customers, with people that come to my house to do work. I have a guy that comes by and cuts my grass, right? I don't know whether or not he knows if I'm a believer or not. And I would feel like if I intentionally, hey, I just want to drop this thing on you today, I don't believe there's a God anyway. I don't feel the need to do that, and I would something would pang inside me if I went to do that. Like, hey, he's not here for that. He's just here to cut grass, and
okay, so
So by the fact that I categorize that or I compartmentalize that doesn't mean that I'm not being true to myself. It just means that I'm being respectful to other people and other beliefs. It just means that I don't feel the need to put that on everybody that's around me. Hey, since you're around me, you get to know my beliefs on these things. I don't feel the need to do that.
Okay, so let's think about it from a Christian point of view. So what's like one way that a Christian what's one way a Christian worldview is different from an atheist worldview when it comes to sharing what they think? What's different about it? You know?
I don't think people that don't believe in God feel the need to proselytize. They don't feel the need to spread the message.
Even more than that, with Christianity, with Christianity and Islam, but we'll talk about Christianity because that's really what we're talking about. With Christianity, there's a command to proselytize, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this person feels compelled by God to say that to you.
Yeah.
So can you see how they feel more of an obligation to God than maybe to your sensibilities in the moment?
Oh yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. I know that they value their God more than other people, for sure. And that sounds like a crass way of saying that, but But what I'm saying is when the football coach huddles up all the kids, hey, let's pray before we start the game. And there's a certain number of parents in the crowd that are thankful that oh, look at that. Isn't that such a nice moment? But how does he know that player number 10 or player number 17 doesn't believe that way? And he feels obligated, okay, I guess we're doing this thing now. And what if that was a different religion? What if that football coach was Muslim or Buddhist or,
you just step away,
Mormon or anything like that? I know, but how do you think that football player really feel, hey, guys, let's huddle up, get a quick prayer in. Okay, you guys go ahead. I'm going to be over here. Well,
that has to be that's the responsibility of the coach. He has to create a space where a kid can be empowered to walk away.
Right.
And I think that's fine. Or
you're going to do that in a stadium full of, all the other parents and with your other players. You're not going to be part of the team and
Yeah. Then if you want to be part of the team, just close your eyes or just stand silently. You don't have to close your eyes. Just stand silently. Yeah. You can do that, right? I could stand silently through a Muslim prayer to not pray.
I could too, but you and I are both grown men. We're not 17 trying to be feel tight with our teammates. So look, my personal opinion is it just shouldn't be done. You shouldn't do it. You do all that stuff at home,
Well, from a Christian point of view, atheists would love nothing more than if God never left the church or the home. That's consistent with atheism, right? Not every atheist believes it, but that's consistent. And that is the opposite of what we were told to do by Jesus, which he said, go into the world and make disciples of all nations, right?
Yeah.
And here's the other thing you have to think about from a Christian point of view. I know that telling you something about Jesus might annoy you. I also know that on Judgment Day, if you don't, submit to Christ as your Lord and you end up being one of the people who's sent to hell, you're not going to be, as you make that walk to the precipice before you're cast into hell, you're not going to be like, man, I'm glad Aaron didn't bug me when I was cutting his grass. You're going to say, why didn't you tell me? Well, because you were being a jerk about it. Well, not you particularly, obviously, but because you're so against it. Well, yeah, why didn't you push through? Well, because you didn't want me to. Yeah, but Jesus told you to push through. Why didn't you push through? That would be can you imagine this fake conversation, right?
I have. In fact, I've imagined it within the last week or so.
So then you can see how
I've thought about it slightly differently. I thought about it like, and the reason I was thinking about it was because I had a conversation with a Christian, and but they didn't believe in a literal hell.
Yeah.
They even backed it up with Scripture. They said, look, John 3:16, God so loved the world that he sent his only son that whoever believes in him should not perish, but it will have everlasting life. So he was saying, if you don't believe in him, you'll perish. You won't also have eternal life there, but you'll perish. You'll just be not with God forever.
That's a little bit of proof texting. That's ignoring a lot of other things Jesus said.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Yeah. But beliefs differ, But then I talked to another believer, and he's talking about a precipice before you go over into, I remember reading Dante's Inferno in high school, Christian Brothers High School, and we explored the different levels of hell, for various types of sinners, so, and the different punishments in each of them.
Yeah.
And so that was interesting.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of different beliefs that come with Christianity. For me, like I said, you're fine with it being, broadcast to anybody and everybody, and you feel you're commanded to do that. That's fine. That is your belief.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not mine, and not many other people's. So,
but you can empathize with why people push through, even if it's not right. Even if it's not. There's
I don't know if empathize is the right word.
Sympathize.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand why they do it.
Yeah.
The same as I understand why when we were attacked on 9/11, I know what those guys were thinking. They were thinking that they were going to die as martyrs, and then they were going to be in paradise with 72 virgins. I know why they did it. I don't agree with it. I think it's, insanity.
Yeah.
But I understand it.
Yeah. And, just to give, not to point fingers, but just to give the counter example for, say, a Christian that heard this, that's exactly how I feel when a kid tells me that he was taught in school that he evolved from a monkey. And I go, that is the most dehumanizing, terrible thing to teach a kid, that he is just an accident from a monkey. And I know why they teach that. I know why people teach that. They don't teach that because they want to hurt the kid. They teach it because that's what they believe, because it's consistent with their worldview. And when I hear it, I'm like, man, and I feel compelled to say something. I go, I'll tell them, you didn't evolve from a monkey. That's not true. So do you see, that's kind of the opposite. That's the opposite experience.
Sure. Sure.
I'm not mad about it, just the way it is.
So we've already touched on a little bit religion in schools. What about the family dynamics? What do you think if you're religious in a non-religious family?
Like if you're a convert?
Yeah. What do you think that experience is like?
Well, I mean,
we know a girl that converted to Judaism, and so one day in her early 30s, she said, I'm going to start investigating this a little bit. Yeah. And then a year or two later, she's like, yep, I've finally done it. I've converted, to Judaism. I just wonder how that plays out in.
I've never been in that situation. I was raised in a Christian family. Everybody was a Christian. Now, perhaps as we got older, being a Christian was less important to people.
Say that again.
Perhaps as we got older, Christianity was less important to people.
In your family?
Yeah, the cares of not my immediate family.
Okay, in the community?
Yeah, like extended family.
Okay.
The cares of the world, get in the way. And you start just caring about it less. If you pressed them on it, they would go back to that Sunday school lesson and tell you, oh yeah, I believe in Jesus, but for all intents and purposes, they've kind of just forgotten about it. I'm sure that, I could probably think about my extended family, and maybe there's some people like that. But I have never been like the only person in a close community that was not a Christian, although it wouldn't bother me that much.
Being the only Christian?
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me at all but I could see, I was trying to think what if my parents or brothers were being hard on me because my values had changed, that would probably be difficult, but I wouldn't expect them to be hard on me. I'd expect them to be understanding. So if someone does convert to Christianity or to any other religion or atheism, where they're the only one in the group, I would, if people are being hard on them, I would say that's not good. That's not going to help anything.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the only atheist in my family. Thankfully, my family has been very loving. I wouldn't say supportive.
No, I wouldn't support it either.
But not that I've sought that.
Yeah.
They've just reinforced the fact that that they love me and that they care about me, and
that's the trick.
And also no real pressure or anything. It's just been more like, if that's you, okay, I still love you. You're still just Gary to me. So
writing that line is hard, like as a Christian. Well, I guess it's probably hard as an atheist too, because you don't want to be like, you don't want to be tough on someone. You want to love them, and certainly just turning on them is not going to help anything. And then you've got to try to accommodate them without supporting, which is tough, because I think we tend to think of that support means, I think in American culture today, like supporting you means like I go all in with you on whatever it is you're doing. But I can support you, the person, and not have any part of and this other thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I think it's hard.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I'm sure. In my Facebook feed right now is a guy that was raised religious. I don't think that he's, I have to look into a little bit more, but I don't know that he's changed his religion or anything like that. I don't know if there was an incident that happened or something came up. But anyway, for whatever reason, he's being shunned by his family.
Yeah.
And I want to say it was either Mormon or I don't think it was Amish. I'm pretty sure it was Mormon. But he's pretty much being shunned right now. And he said in one of his Facebook posts, like, man, my parents treat me like a dog, just worthless. And nobody wants any contact.
Yeah, see, that's not good. I wouldn't.
That's not good at all.
No. Now, one thing I would do is I wouldn't if I had a family, let's say I had a wife and kids, and one of the kids, like to say they're college age, and one goes off and he becomes an atheist and he comes back.
Mm-hmm. That probably happens a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think that's a failure of the church too, for not doing what we're doing right now, which is engaging people and knowing what the world thinks before you go into it.
Sure.
While they're still sheltered. Anyways, I would say you can't bring that in here though. Like you're not coming into this house and trying to bring everyone down the path you're on. You can go on the path, but you got to go it alone. You're not coming in here and bringing it. I would say that.
What if they come home from college and want to?
Yeah, and they're
explain to everybody.
We can talk about it. We can talk about it. I'm saying you're not gonna like come in here and try to, mostly it would be prey on your brothers or your siblings. I wouldn't think you're gonna prey on me or my wife, but you prey on your siblings. They're gonna be the low
prey on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so.
Interesting choice of words.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how else to say it.
Like they're a predator.
Yeah. Well, in a certain respect. If you're trying to like...
Do you feel like atheists are predators?
No. I'm just saying you're trying to proselytize. You're coming in. You're trying to change their mind to think like you.
Yeah.
Right? I'm saying you can come in here and we can have a conversation.
It's got to be a big challenge, though.
Mm-hmm.
It was a challenge for me.
Yeah.
When I began deconstructing, how do I have conversations with the people that I love, people that are around me, the people that I've invested all these years in these things, and now I don't believe these things? Mm-hmm. How do I have conversations with these people about some of these things that have been so critical, so important to our identities? Mm-hmm. Do I respect them enough to avoid because of how they believe, or do I respect them enough to consider them full-grown adults that are capable of having a conversation in which there might be some opposing views, and for them not to take it personal? Which way is respecting them more?
Yeah. The truth, right? Don't you think telling the truth?
Yeah, but it's from an atheist
in gentleness, but
yeah. From an atheist point of view, it's very challenging because our identities are wrapped up in this stuff, and so you're essentially telling somebody that what they've based their life on you consider to be false. And so it's very, very challenging.
Yeah, as you were talking there, I was kind of wondering, like, I'm imagining my family, and I'm putting myself in my dad's place. So let's say I was married, I had 3 boys, one went off to college, he came back, we're Christians, he came back something else, it doesn't matter what, and he tried to like convince his brothers to go to follow in his steps. I would definitely put my foot down and be like, you're not doing it in my house. Obviously, I can't stop you guys from talking outside of here. But then I was like, what if he said he would leave if I didn't, like, lighten up And I was just trying to think, would I let him leave? Would I tell him, you're always welcome here, but you can't come in like this, the way you are? This is my house and you have to come in under my terms.
Yeah.
Or would I let him leave? Would I let him walk out and say, you're always welcome back, but you can't come back with that message? You got to keep that message outside the house.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking,
I think as much as we grow and we learn about ourselves, and we put our own foot in our mouth sometimes, the father in that aspect should try to, teach his son, hey, look, man, respect people, care about people, that kind of thing. So the same as you wouldn't go into your neighbor's house or anybody else's, just respect the place that you're in.
Yeah. I mean, that would be last resort. I'm not saying that'd be the first thing I do. I was trying to think, what if it went all the way to that point where he was like, I'm leaving then? What would I say?
I think that your response was good. You're always welcome here. We love you.
Yeah. Just got to leave that at the door.
I don't even know that I would go. I probably wouldn't throw that in.
Yeah.
I would probably throw in like, hey, man, this is a place where you can explore those things, and we can have hours-long conversation about these things that are important to you.
Well, that's true.
Now.
Yeah, I like that.
And I'm going to love you regardless. One thing that you can always count on is that you're loved here and that you're welcome here. And I'm never going to tell you that something that is important to you is off limits to discuss. I'm not going to do those things. But I will love you and I will disagree with you in that love. But this is a place where we can explore those things. But not every household is capable of that.
Yeah.
That's not possible at all places.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think how you would draw the line there. Like, yeah, you're always welcome here. You can always have a conversation with me. But in that situation, I'm different because I would be the patriarch. So I would be the one who you should be having the conversation with. And I would be protecting the rest of the family by saying, in this house, not with them, with me. Leave your mother alone. Leave your brothers alone. If you want to explore these topics, explore them with me. Yeah. Because I think you have a duty to, you don't have to shield someone. You have a duty to protect them. And I would talk to the brothers. I would talk to I'm trying to think of the family. I would talk to the family about this person. I wouldn't let him be the one to lay all this out unchallenged, So, but like you said, we were talking earlier, I don't even know what it was that was said, but you said people go off to college and then the kids become atheists. And that's because because no one addresses the tough things. When you go to college, everyone at college is going to believe the secular narrative about the earth, let's say, about the world, about who we are, where we came from, right? Everyone's going to believe that. Not everyone, but most people are going to believe that.
Yeah, except at religious universities.
Yeah, there's religious universities, but if you go into the secular university and everyone in the science department who is an authority figure to you is telling you the same story and giving you reasons that they believe this narrative, and you're not prepared, it's the first time you heard it, man, I can only imagine how hard that is. Like, I believed it. It never affected my Christianity, but I assumed everything that was said was true, and I didn't try to parse through it. Now, I was never in danger of like turning away from Christianity. I just kind of suppressed that and didn't worry about it. But I did buy into the narrative. But I see how that could challenge someone's beliefs,
Sure.
Especially when you go into a place that's overwhelmingly secular, like a normal public university.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So it's actually kind of the opposite. It's the opposite of the coach that's gathering the team around to pray. It's the professor that's gathering the students around to tell them about
evolution.
Yeah. His naturalistic explanations of the world. Right. So it's kind of the same thing in a way.
Right.
Well,
I mean, even in your own worldview, you believe in a hyper evolution. Since the flood.
There's nothing hyper about it.
Okay, we'll explore that more at some point.
Yeah.
The kinds that were on the ark.
Yeah.
And then since then, all different things that come out of that. Chihuahua and a wolf both came from the canine kind.
Yeah, how many?
And since then, you've gotten all this diversity, but there was only 2.
No, I didn't say there's only 2 dogs. I said there was. I don't know how many kinds there were. So, for instance, when you go to the Ark Encounter,
it's one of the challenges with the
Yeah.
with the explanation of the Ark. You know, you and I've talked about them. This is not the episode for that, but we talked about the heat problem and that kind of stuff.
Well, I just want to explain this though. when you go to the Ark Encounter, because nobody knows what a kind is. First of all, nobody knows what a kind is, but we do know in the Bible when it talks about, say, kinds of trees, it says it'll talk about different trees, right? It's not just tree kind. One tree led to all trees. It's that there's different kinds of trees. So like, but an oak is always an oak. It's never a hemlock, and a hemlock is always a hemlock. It's never a maple, right? Within their kind. So, for instance, at the Ark Encounter, I think one of the signs they had talks about the way they were trying to figure out how many different kinds there were. And they said if there was any ambiguity and they weren't sure, they would just create a separate kind. And so for like bats, I think they had like 10 different kinds of bats, right? And a kind loosely was animals that could breed with each other. But my point is this: so it could be 16 dogs. I couldn't tell you how many dogs are on the Ark. All I was saying is that as long as 2 animals had all of the information, genetic information in their code, that could account for all the speciation that we see. You just need to have the information there first. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's all you need.
The reason we got off on that was because college campuses and, somebody gathering up students, talk about, gathering up students attending their class, science class, in which at some point they're probably going to talk about evolution, that kind of thing. So anyway, but faith in the daily interactions. What about, so we talked about family being religious or non-religious, and a family that's the opposites. What about personal relationships?
Like, you mean like boyfriend, girlfriend, or like, I mean, I would personally never date.
I mean, how challenging would it be if a Muslim
I wouldn't do it.
Was dating a Christian?
Yeah, I wouldn't do it. And the only way
you wouldn't do it because it would be so challenging?
I would just, there's no way you're going to have any harmony. As long as you both believe. Here's the thing, is that in all religions, everywhere, there are people who walk the walk. I'm sorry, that talk the talk, but don't walk the walk.
Sure.
Right? So they're there, and they're acting like it, but they're not really part of the group.
So you would say that we should stick to our own kind.
Yes. Hey. So if I truly believe that Christianity is true, and there's a person that I love who is a Muslim, I wholeheartedly believe that's going to end in their destruction. How could I just let them go about life and respect who they are, right? When I know that this is leading to your destruction. That's why I say and this is based off not having talked to these people, so I'm drawing a conclusion about them without having talked to them. But when you see people who talk about being in an interfaith marriage, an interfaith marriage means no faith. Because if I'm just like, hey, I'm a Christian, you're a Muslim, and we're going to just, I'm going to do my thing, you're going to do your thing, our kids can choose what they want, and this is how we go. Neither person in that situation is true. Neither person believes it if they're embracing it. If they're embracing an interfaith marriage, neither one of them truly believes in their faith. Because how could you? How could you?
I mean,
if you truly believe.
Do you believe that interracial marriages are?
No, interracial is not interfaithal.
I get it, but I'm just saying it's a core. It's a core part of who they are. Do you think?
Well, I don't see any problem with interracial marriage. I don't see how the two are related.
Yeah. I'm just wondering how you think that their convictions wouldn't be true, or wouldn't be simply because they're in a relationship with somebody who's not.
If they're embracing it, if they're just embracing it, like, oh yeah, we're interfaith. I saw it was particularly. I'm thinking of this couple that was on Shark Tank, and they had a product that crossed the bridge between Christianity. Oh no, because she was Jewish and he was Christian, and they wanted something that wasn't a menorah or sand or a manger, whatever. Anyway, they came up with this thing, and he was like all proud of his interfaith house. And I was like, if you're just like, oh yeah, my wife's a different religion, and that's totally cool. I love it. That's great. You don't. if you're a Christian, you don't actually believe the Christian tenets. If you're a Jew, a Muslim, or a Christian, you don't believe the Christian tenets. If you're a Hindu, you wouldn't care, or a Buddhist, you wouldn't care.
So a Christian, well, I guess what you would say a true Christian, cannot love a non-Christian.
I did not say that.
Okay, help me understand, because it sounds like that's what.
Yeah.
If I love this person, but they're not a Christian, then I don't really believe in my Christianity.
If I love this person and they're not a Christian, if they're not a Christian and I love them, I will not embrace their pick your flavor of rebellion against Christianity, right? Against God. I'm not going to support that, right? That's why I say I would never do it. It would be, I would think, impossible. Unless I just truly didn't care or believe, you know. I either don't care about the person or I don't believe in my religion, because if you're doing something that I believe is going to lead to your destruction,
but
how can I not intercede?
But you're saying that you can't do both at the same time. I can't really value and love and believe in my religion while at the same time valuing this person and loving that person.
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
I said you can't embrace their, and I said whatever rebellion you want. It doesn't matter, religion or atheism. Their other religion or other.
Do you feel like letting that person be that person is the same as embracing whatever their worldview is?
No.
In other words, if I embrace a person, am I also embracing their worldview?
No, I think you can definitely. I think we do it all the time with the drug addict. You love the person, but you're not. You don't support, encourage anything to do with drug addiction or alcoholism or cheating on a spouse. Right? If you knew someone was cheating on their spouse, you wouldn't be like, "Oh yeah, bring your girlfriend with us. Let's go."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's a good example. I mean, and I guess that leans more towards what I'm saying. You know, is. So let me ask you this. So that was, I guess we've been talking about this from the perspective of beginning a relationship or falling in love. What if the opposite of that? What if you got into the relationship, so you got married, you already had a kid or two, and then one of you changes course, like the girl I described a little bit ago, became curious about Judaism, started investigating it, and then at some point said, you know what, I'm converting to Judaism. Meanwhile, she's been married 15 years already.
Yeah.
And
I wouldn't divorce my wife over if she changed religions. I'm not saying that.
So two people of different religions could be in a loving marriage.
Yeah, I'm saying that I don't know. I'm not sure how that would go. I don't understand how you do it.
That'd be a challenge for sure.
Yeah. But
there'd be some self-exploration and some grace extended, hopefully, both ways.
But I would never. But I would be there. If I love this person, I would be there hoping to be a positive influence that would reverse whatever change happened. You know, that would be important to me.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't abandon them, no.
Okay. So they could be, so people of different faiths or of faith and not could be in a loving relationship.
Yeah, I think if someone changes, especially if someone changes, I think you're setting yourself up for failure if you start a relationship with someone whose worldview is totally different than yours. But no, I wouldn't divorce my wife because she changed, but I also wouldn't embrace whatever this change is. Not talking specifically about religion.
Sure.
I wouldn't embrace that change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so, I mean, obviously we have different views on how someone's faith should be in business, politics, celebrity, the family dynamic, the personal relationship dynamic.
Yeah.
Being who you are, religious or non, can be challenging in a number of different settings. You know, as an employer, you can't gather your employees up and say, "Hey, we're going to have prayer time right now."
I can't force them to. I can gather them up and say, "Hey, we're going to have prayer time. If you don't want to be part of this, you can go to this other place, or you can take 10 minutes off, or whatever." But you can certainly gather your employees up and pray.
Sure. Wondering what the laws are about all that, because it wouldn't. I think you'd be flirting pretty heavily with what do they call it? The type of work environment, hostile work environment.
Well, I would say this: if I wanted to pray at work,
just like when you said, if I've got two applicants and I can't ask on the application. But if somehow I found out that one's a believer and one's a non, I'm probably going to go for this one over that one. If that was ever a public thing, I think you'd definitely be opening yourself up for a lawsuit there. We've all established that cannot be a criteria.
You probably are opening yourself up to some kind of legal trouble that has nothing to do with whether that's a good decision or not. It can be a good decision still.
Okay.
And it could be the right decision.
Okay.
Right? The law, especially in America, the law is not necessarily what's right. The law is just what's the law.
Okay.
But I would, here's the thing, but this is me. I would dig my heels in. If I want to pray, I'm going to pray.
Mm-hmm.
And if that means you want to try to come after whatever it is I have, I'm not worried about it. You know what I mean? There was a time I didn't have it, and there'll be a time when I don't have it again, and that's fine. But I'm digging my heels in. I'm dying on this mountain over this issue.
Yeah.
Of being able to express who I am.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
That's why I say I would just quit a job. I would never be silenced.
Sure.
Ever.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I hope that everybody else would have that freedom. And,
Yeah.
To have a voice.
I'll go one step further too. This is going to be a little bit controversial.
Oh, let's do it, man.
All right. I wouldn't take a job or participate in a job where I'm required to do things that violate my beliefs. So I wouldn't get into the pronoun game. I think transgenderism is kind of low-hanging fruit right now because you're being required to say something that is not true, right? I'm being asked to say something that is not true. Mm-hmm. And so if I took a job and I got there and I realized I was in this situation, I would just leave. Yeah. Also, if I owned a business, I wouldn't hire someone that's going to put me in that situation where now I got to try to navigate things that I disagree with. Or maybe even an easier one would be like gay marriage, right?
Yeah.
If you have a guy who's married to a man, and that's something that I just really don't even acknowledge, but I put myself in a situation now where I got to talk about your husband when I feel like I'm lying when I say that. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that knowingly. I wouldn't do the person, right? There's a place out there, and I know the world thinks you should be forced to behave that way, but I just wouldn't.
I think there's an in-between. Yeah. So, for instance, for me, I'm okay using somebody's chosen pronouns as it doesn't bother me. Do I feel like I'm being forced? No, I don't feel like I'm being forced. I feel like that person is already going through enough of a struggle, enough of a challenge. Mm-hmm. They don't feel like themselves in their own skin. Mm-hmm. I don't want to do anything to make that journey any tougher for them. Yeah. And it doesn't affect me at all. Have you ever been in the hospitality? Have you ever been a server? You ever been a bartender, anything like that? Mm-hmm. Okay. I did too. So if I had a table come in, say it was two guys, and one guy sat down first, and he said, "Hey, when my husband gets here, so and so and so and so, I don't feel the need to say, well, that marriage didn't recognize, I don't feel the need to make a stand right there. I would just say, okay, mm-hmm. Cool. What do you think he likes to drink? Yeah.
I wouldn't either.
I wouldn't, I don't have to make a stand in all these things. I can just help people have a great day. Uh-huh. I'm not going to be the thing that ruins your day. Hopefully, after you meet me, you're going to say, man, that Gary, mm-hmm. he was pretty awesome. Yeah. I wanted to be called she, her. And he said, okay. Mm-hmm. You do you. Yeah. I'm fine with that, and I appreciated that. I don't want to be the roughest part of anybody's day, and I don't feel like I have the certainly not the obligation to make myself the roughest part of their day, but I don't feel like I have the freedom to make their interaction with me the roughest part of their day. I don't think I have. I don't get that. I don't get that right.
Well, I'm not saying I would try to make their life rough, but let's just say everything you just said, but from my point of view.
Okay.
To me,
This may be a good mental exercise.
Oh yeah.
It may be great.
Thought
for
experiment.
Me. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, to me, when someone says what it's pronouns, what's it matter? My response, they say, "What are you giving up?" My response is the truth. I know that you're not. Let's say it's a man dressed as a woman. Mm-hmm. I know that you're not a woman, and you want me to say that you are, to lie to myself. So for me, that would be the hardest part of my day, is to lie about something that I know is true. So should you be, in that case, you're the man dressed as a woman is the one being the hardest part about my day, right? Because you're forcing me to lie, and I don't want to lie.
Yeah.
Now you could try to convince me it's not a lie, but that's irrelevant. I believe I'm lying, and you're trying to force me to lie, and I don't want to lie. So now I'm in a quandary.
Yeah. So
why don't you just put these pronouns away and let's not worry about it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's interesting, isn't it? It's the exact same thing. It's exactly the same.
I don't think so.
In what way is it different? We got 4 minutes.
Yeah, I guess I just don't take it all that. These things aren't critical to me.
Ooh.
Look, on Halloween, right? A couple shows up to the party, and one of them's dressed as the doctor, one of them's dressed as the nurse, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. And halfway through the party, somebody says, "Hey, have you seen Nurse Stacy around anywhere?" I go, "I don't know. Let's all go look for Nurse Stacy." I know she's not a nurse. I know it's just Halloween. I know it's just playing dress up. You know what I mean? I don't really care. It's not like I'm legitimately calling her a nurse. If she wants to feel like she is for the night or whatever, fine. Who cares?
But that's not what's happening.
I know, but what difference would it make to me if that same thing was happening on, March 3rd? I don't really care. You do you. If you want to walk around thinking you're a nurse, what can I get you to drink?
Okay.
I mean, it's not critical to me.
Okay, so if I want to walk around acknowledging that you're not a nurse, why is that something to you? Why don't you just let me walk around and acknowledge that you're not a nurse? I mean, that's the same. Why don't I get that same courtesy? Yeah. Like, oh yeah, it's really important to this guy that he doesn't feel like he's lying, so I won't force him to lie. But here's the thing: the person who is the trans woman, man dressed as a woman, mm-hmm. believes themselves to be a woman, they don't. Sorry, I won't hypothesize on what's in their head. Believes themselves to be a woman and wants the rest of the world to acknowledge that same truth, even though I know it is not true. Now, there's two worldviews that are incompatible. There's no middle ground on that one. Yeah. So that's, well, I don't know what you do, but I'm just saying, why don't we extend the courtesy both ways?
Yeah.
By the way, real quick, this is consistent. This is what I mean with something that's consistent with atheism, right? And not all atheists are going to agree with you. But when you said, I don't know, if a man wants to think he's a woman, that doesn't matter to me. This is a good example of something that's consistent with atheism, even though it varies. And me going, yeah, but you're asking me to give up truth. That's because that is consistent with Christianity, right? Does that make sense? I just wanted to give you an example. Ooh, because
I know that it makes sense to you. I know that it makes sense to you.
Well, we were talking about
to someone who doesn't believe in your faith, when you say truth is an essential component of Christianity, it seems like, what's the phrase for that?
I don't know.
An oxymoron or
yeah. Okay.
It seems like a contradiction right there to somebody who doesn't believe as you do. So.
Yeah. That's interesting.
It would be like a Muslim saying to you, truth is an essential part of Islam. You're like, well, wait a minute. I don't even think that what you believe is the truth. And now you're going to tell me the truth is a part of your thing,
Yeah. So you don't believe? Okay. We don't. I don't think we'll explore that today.
Sure.
But yeah. Anyways, I think that courtesy should be extended both ways.
Yeah. So, with all the topics that we've covered today, including this last one, I feel like you're consistent in that these things are religious belief is a core part of somebody's personality.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't have to conceal or change that or hide that in any way. I want to make sure that I understood your perspective.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't think there should be any.
In a minute, I'm going to get you to do mine.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, from your perspective, religion is a core part of somebody's personality. It should not have to be masked or hidden in any way. And to some degree, should be explained to those around them, be it the family, be it when other situations come up, you feel a right to clarify for people that you come in contact with.
Yeah, obligation.
Yeah. Even, yeah. Feel an obligation to clarify your truth for those that you come in contact with.
I've done wrong by you if I don't. That's how I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me mine.
I think from your worldview, all of these things, all of these religions are equally someone's opinion, and that one opinion isn't better or worse than the other. And for the sake of getting along, since none of it's real anyways, for the sake of getting along, if you could just keep your opinion to yourself and I will keep my opinion to myself, then we can just kind of mosey through life and we don't have to clash. Religion, politics, it's kind of all the same thing. If we don't argue about those things, we can just mosey through. I'm not annoyed. You can still be a Christian. And then me and you don't have any conflict.
Yeah. Okay. That's not too far off.
Yeah.
Only part I would disagree with is mosey. We're not moseying. We're going to kick this life's ass.
Yeah.
We're going to thrive. As long as
we're going to thrive.
As long as we can learn to get along better and love each other better, then we're going to have an awesome time. And if I can help you in any way, I'm happy to.
So the interesting thing, not to just belabor the point, but we'll leave it something for people to think about.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. What does it mean to what was the last thing you just said? I wanted to use your words. You said
something about kicking this life's ass.
Yeah, and then do right by each other. Did you say that?
I'm sure I did.
So what happens when doing right by each other is when two people who want to do right by each other have completely opposing views of what is doing right by someone. So maybe that's something people can think about.
Okay.
Maybe comment on it in the comments.
Yeah.
So,
all right, let's do it.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Thank you
Appreciate
for another
thanks,
good
dude.
talk.
Thanks for being the man that brings the topics. I was just driving I was like, what are the topics I could think of? Why are atheists dumb? Why are atheists wrong? Why are atheists?
Right.
No, I'm just kidding.
I'll help you get past that.
Nah, dude. I was like, what can we talk about? That was good. You did good.
Good.
So,
Good.
Appreciate it.
All right,
man.
we'll do it again.
Okay.